Okay, so we started out as congressional messaging campaigns. We did sort of change our name a bit of the way through, change to sort of talking to Congress because um yeah, that sort of captures sort of fundamentally what we're looking at here, which is in a lot of other movements where people are concerned about safety of a given thing. One sort of conduit we have to address this is policy. And in sort of representative democracies, the way that that should work is we should be able to basically convey when we're concerned about something. Um, and this seems like one sort of pipeline, one sort of way to convey that concern. And so we were sort of interested in, yeah, like what is the sort of research out there on that? So this gives you a bit of a quick description of where we've been at. And so yeah, so we worked on first conducting research. So we spent some time sort of specifically going through pretty much all the literature we could find on, yeah, partly what's called congressional messaging campaigns, but yeah, just what's more broadly um, the literature on what is the sort of result of contacting your legislature, your sort of representative at the federal level in the U.S. How does that lead to them? How does that change them? What's the sort of theory for how that like could change their mind on something? Um, Kind of just learning too a bit about like, okay, how do offices work? How do they like process this communication? Um, and yeah, so what that resulted in was a forum post, basically capturing the upshots of our research. I don't have time to convey too much of that now. We've come up with some general rules, which Jacob will talk to you about momentarily. But basically, um, we found that the literature here is like fairly sparse. There's actually not that much out there. But there is some reports out there by nonprofits. So the Congressional Management Foundation has put out a number of reports on the matter. And yeah, there has been some stuff in the political science literature, specifically looking at the state level. And they found significant effects on basically increased communication to state level legislators. Uh, and yeah, so given this, we felt that there was a pretty solid case here for CMCs being a potentially like effective sort of mechanism for, yeah, alerting policymakers to this issue and basically representing a sort of some sort of low-hanging fruit in the area because there's no sort of easy way to accomplish something like this right now. You can, if you have your own initiative, you can sort of go and learn about this process from other advocacy groups. But we wanted to try to, look into, if we could set up something that was tailored for safety here. So Felix is going to talk a bit more about some of the sort of upshots of a good message here.
Yeah, thanks, Tristan. So I should also note that although much of our research did focus on a US context, we do expect that many of our findings likely generalize to other democratic countries as well, given similarities in political processes in those nations. So one of our findings was that, perhaps unsurprisingly, congressional staff are starved for time, right? They receive a flood of messages each day, and therefore it's important to make your message stand out. And you want your message ultimately to be something that an overworked, underpaid 20-year-old intern remembers at the end of the day. Like that should be your goal, right? And so we came up with something called the STAMP method. So that stands for short, thoughtful, actionable, memorable, and personalized. Short. Staff are time starved. Your message should ideally be no more than a page or two. You might have more to say on the issue, but they don't necessarily have the time to read it. However, if you want a longer hearing, you should schedule a meeting with your congressional offices. Thoughtful. You should make sure to express gratitude and frame your request in the context of the representative's policy priorities. Even if you don't necessarily agree with them, you have to remember Congresspeople are human and they have egos, and it's not a bad idea to appeal to that a little bit. Actionable. The more specific your request, the better. So if you're advocating for a specific bill, you should include the bill number in your text. And even if you're advocating for something broader, you should try to include some type of request, right? So even if you're just saying like Congressperson so-and-so should talk to their colleagues about AI safety and support risk reduction policies, that's still an ask, right? And so no matter what, you want to include and close off your message with a request for what you want your legislator to do. Memorable. Stories and personal anecdotes are really powerful, right? Congresspeople want to hear how policies have affected their constituents. And you should discuss, if applicable, how AI has affected you. So maybe you're an artist who's been screwed over by generative AI. Maybe you're a parent who's concerned about their children's future. Whatever the case, you should include that. And lastly, personalized. You want to tailor your message to the representative in question to show that you care about their policy positions. And you can do this by, for instance, looking into relevant committees that the representative might be on, such as the Committee on Commerce, Science, and Transportation, applicable to AI, and tying that into your message. So basic takeaway, remember the stamp method when you put a stamp on your letter. Next slide.
Yeah. Thank you, Felix. And yeah, so we basically with the stamp method, you are already like very well on your way to knowing the sort of basics that you need to for contacting your legislator. If you're able to just internalize those aspects and sit down and craft a message with that in mind, we think you're already, yeah, like basically you basically already have what you need to send a quality message to your legislator, or to choose a quality communication form with your legislator. But we also were interested in how we can facilitate this to basically make this as easy as possible, so that a sort of broader audience that may want some more guidance here, who can be able to sort of have something that sort of walks them through the process. And so we decided to develop a program in Guided Track. And this is basically a program that will walk you through and will take a number of your inputs and will help you sort of brainstorm various aspects of the letter that you can then take and sort of bring into a sort of cohesive message to then actually get in touch with your legislator after. So yeah, we still have this in development, but we'll show you at the end a sort of sign up link if you would like to get your hands on this once we are able to finish this, hopefully in the coming weeks. And yeah, we would really appreciate you testing it out, letting us know what you think, and also us, even if you're not in the US, sending it to anyone you may know in the US, or even thinking about how you can apply some of the same concepts in your own circumstance if you're in another democracy. But yeah, Felix.
So just some closing thoughts here on our findings, right? As Tristan and I were saying, our research has shown that contacting Congress directly is a pretty critical way to advance policy changes. And now is really a good time to do this because there has been a surge of interest amongst policymakers in AI safety. So for instance, the US AI Safety Institute was recently established. Bills related to deepfakes are already being heard within Congress. And recently, a 200-page report commissioned by the State Department found a significant chance of AI-induced extinction and recommended policy actions to safeguard against risks. So the government is beginning to pay attention to this. Now, in the coming months, we expect this interest to continue. And Congress will likely pay increasingly close attention to AI. More policy measures will likely be introduced. However, if history is any indication, we also expect some actors, such as lobbyists working on the behalf of AI companies, to downplay AI safety and to recommend watered down or biased policy recommendations. And this is one last reason why contacting Congress and making our voices heard as citizens is so important, because ultimately we need the wisdom and the foresight to respond to threats of this scale, and it is going to be up to us to convince our leaders to act. So in terms of next steps, if you go to the next slide here, over the next few weeks, we are going to be finishing and launching up our web product. As Tristan was mentioning, this is going to be a step-by-step guide to contacting Congress, right? So anybody, regardless of background, will be able to use this guide in order to learn how to write a thoughtful message that gets your point across and enables you to take a stand on this issue. If you want to keep updated on our website and notified when the final version launches in a few weeks, do scan the QR code on the screen to sign up to our mailing list. And I am also going to post the sign up form in the chat as well. Again, this will allow you to easily and effectively communicate with Congress. And if you can, please do send out your mailing list to anyone you know who might be interested in talking to their legislator as well. Thank you all for coming.